Speaking, you know.
Okay, so I want to move on here to this this issue over here, the next, which is the another certification that we have, which is, let me bring this up on your screen. Just give me a minute, please. This is Gromachip Technologies. And you can see the star K over here. Shabbos elevator lift systems. Well, hold on a second. If I do that, I think now you'll see it. Okay, there we go. Now you should see it. Okay, these are Shabbos lift systems for the home for elderly people. You can see over here the stair lift for straight stairs, and here on the right is stair lift for curved stairs. And then he also has the what he calls the K Luft. The K Luft is nebulizer, for use on a nebulizer, and for people that need that. So, Rabbi Frankel, you were involved in this certification a great deal, I know. So, how does this work? What is the point of this, and how does it go?
So it works through Groma. As was mentioned beforehand, we generally are not lenient to allow Groma devices on Shabbos for healthy people. Both these devices, the stair lift and the nebulizer, are designed for people who have health problems or problems walking up steps. They're not made for children who are just lazy or want to swing up and down. They're made for people who have difficulty, and those people are allowed to do this. Again,
so it works with, as the name Gromachip indicates, it works with a Groma, right?
Yeah, I think the name gives it away. Yeah.
So Groma is a delay. So there's a delay. So how does the delay work on the gadget?
So when you sit down in the chair and you press the button, nothing happens for a few seconds. After a few seconds, it'll start working, and it'll bring you up or down the stairs. And it has a stop button. When you press the stop button, it won't stop. It'll keep on going for another few seconds, and then it'll stop. The starting and the stopping is with a Groma. Now there is a security concern over here that somebody might have some emergency. They might be crashing into something. So it does have an emergency stop button, which is not a Groma, but that's only meant to be used during for emergencies. Generally, the expectation is that people will use the Groma button both on the way up, the way down, and that's how.
So when you take your hand off of the button, it doesn't stop right away, right?
Correct. It doesn't.
And when you press it, it doesn't start right away.
Right.
So there's a few second delay.
Right. When you take your hand off the button, it doesn't stop. It doesn't slow down either. When you take the hand off the button, it continues at the same speed it was going. Nothing noticeable changes for a few seconds.
Do you remember? Then he has this the nebulizer system for people that need nebulizers, the K Luft. So how does that work with a Groma? What's the point of the Groma on that?
So again, the people use nebulizers. Sometimes it's not practical to have them on the whole Shabbos. They're not designed for that, to be left on 24 hours.
It could break.
It could break, it will break, right? Quite likely. So, switching them on and off, again, is an electrical device. So that would be problematic. So here, what he does is he takes a nebulizer, it's connected to a relay, which is connected to a computer chip. And when you move the switch on, when you move the relay, so the computer chip does, we'll get that information, but nothing happens for some time. The way it actually works is that the nebulizer goes on momentarily every once in a while, and then it stops. If you move the switch, then it won't stop. Now it's going to start either way, but it doesn't last if you've moved that switch. So then when it starts, it'll just keep on going.
Okay, so again, that's obviously a person who's a chola. They need it. They must have it.
Right. It's only meant to be respectful.
Okay, so that's okay. Very good. Let me stop that.
I should also point out that, as I mentioned, Rabbi Heinemann's opinion is that Groma is categorized based on what it looks like to the human eye, Not all poskim agree. These devices are engineered in such a ways that that other poskim who have other concerns, it also addresses some of those many of those concerns as well. So there are other technical technical parts to this device, but in terms of for our purposes, this is sufficient to make it acceptable for use on Shabbos.
Okay, here's some pictures we have Rabbi Heinemann here in the background checking out some of his devices.
So this is a
You
scooter.
see the scooter. The scooter also he does.
Right. So he makes scooters specifically for individuals. It's not produced.
It's not mass produced.
It's not mass produced.
Uh-huh.
So it does not have, it doesn't have this stockade, but it's the same technology. He does it the same way.
And here you can see he's showing Rabbi
Right.
Heinemann the gadget, how that works.
Right. It's the same thing. It's he
This is the controls.
he's in contact with us all the time. Every time when he makes scooters, he contacts me.
Here's the inventor, Rabbi Heinemann.
And yeah, he follows the stockade guidelines in everything he does.
Okay, very good. Let's take some of the questions that are over here. Rabbi Parkov says, I wish to correct you. Muksa machmas gufo is usher even if for its place or itself. Only kli shemachal isser is permitted for itself or its place. That's correct. Okay, why shouldn't LD bulb called kli shemachal isser? Well, because if there's no fire in it, then there isn't any buses for a fire. So then it's just a kli shemachal isser, right? Why would it be called a muksa machmas gufo?
Right.
He's arguing that LED should be like Muksa Machmas Gufo.
There are people, that's not an impossible opinion to hold. There may be opinions that hold that way, but generally one would look at it that something has to produce heat to be considered, when a filament is considered an issa deraisa because of the heat it produces. The metal gets heated up till the metal's glowing, causing metal to glow is an issa deraisa. LED doesn't have heat, and so that would be why it's better than an incandescent bulb.
Mm-hmm. Ami is asking, how is this different than the switch? I'm not sure what that was referring to. If you could go back to your question. EPS.
I mean, the short answer is that the switch is made for non-sick people.
Oh, how is it different than the kosher switch? How is the grommet chip different than the kosher switch?
Right, the answer is
they're both grommas. And that's right. So
Right.
the kosher switch was supposed to be for everybody, and that was objectionable.
right, correct,
Right?
right.
But this is made for people who are sick, who can't get up and down the stairs, or they have a nebulizer, they have asthma, and something that you really need, but you're trying to avoid doing malach on Shabbos.
Right.
EPS says, do you have any information using a CPAP for sleep apnea on Shabbos?
That's a very good question. So
You have an article about that, Rabbi Frankel.
I have an article which is on the Stargate website.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to the Stargate website and you search CPAP, the article will come up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Could the switch be used on a CPAP machine and then just to turn it on at the beginning so you wouldn't have a malacha?
It could, theoretically, but many of the newer CPAP machines are designed that they only activate when you breathe into them. So switching on the switch won't do anything.
Uh-huh. I see.
It
Okay, so it wouldn't necessarily help.
It depends on how your CPAP machine is designed.
I see. Okay. Rivka asks, how does using the Grumman nebulizer compare halachically to using a nebulizer on a Shabbos clock? Oh, meaning, in other words, set up a nebulizer on a Shabbos clock. But how does it work if you put on a Shabbos clock? How do you know when you need the nebulizer? Don't you need it? I mean, I'm not that expert in it, but I think you need it when you need it. You know, it's not necessarily that you need it from 10 to 10:15. You need it when you feel like you need it.
So for different people,
Uh-huh.
if the Shabbos clock
I
works
see.
for you, then if you need it when you're sleeping, and you know when you're going to sleep, then
Mhm.
yes, that's
So the Shabbos clock would be
excellent.
Shabbos clock would be preferable because
Right,
you're not doing anything.
Right, exactly. Yes.
Here you're doing a grumma.
Right. Shabbos clock.
Okay.
Shabbos clock is ideal. Yeah.
Right. Scott says, if the elevator nebulizer is set up to act with a delay, doesn't that negate the grumma heter? No, the delay is the grumma, right?
Right.
That is what allows us to consider the grumma, according to Rabbi Heinemann, is the delay. So that is how it works. Okay, Rivka says, set it to go on every 4 hours. Okay, if you're, like we said before, if you're, right?
That's
If your nebulizer, if you need it every 4 hours, put it on a Shabbos clock and you're set. If you need it when you need it, then that's the idea of the gromma switch.
Just doesn't get a Shabbos clock which has multiple settings that you can, set it to go on and off 6 times.
Right. Yehuda says some of the devices are allowed on Shabbos for cholim, but not for those who are healthy. Is this because those who are ill are following a more lenient position? Or are they allowed to perform malacha on Shabbos for their health? So they're allowed to. Gromma on Shabbos is mutter for a person who is ill.
Right.
So they are allowed to do that.
Right. They don't have to. They can use that status as they need to. They don't have to feel that it's a second-rate solution if they're.
There is always a thought, though, when we think about these devices, will it come to be used by people who don't have a problem?
Right.
So the stair lift, it's unlikely that the person who doesn't need it is going to want to use it. The nebulizer, certainly not.
I think there's also one point which I think is worth mentioning, is that there's a discussion, disagreement about electrical devices in general, whether electricity is forbidden from the Torah or just forbidden midrabanan. Chazon Ish holds that activating an electric device involves closing a circuit is considered like building. It's a malacha opinion. He holds it's also in the Torah, and therefore even grama would be graman in Issa D'Oraisa, which generally we don't permit, perhaps not even for a sick person. Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach and most poskim understand that if there's no heat or cooking or light or that's none of that is involved, just to make a device activate, that's also only midrabanan, and groma on that is permitted for a sick person. So those people who would be stringent like the Chazon Ish, perhaps these devices will not be for them. But again, most person, the generally accepted position is like Shlomo Zalman.
Yehuda asks, why does an ill person need a gromma? An ill person needs a gromma because if it's a real sakana, a real danger, then he just goes ahead and just does the malacha. But we're talking about a person who's trying to minimize. He's not that ill. He has some difficulty getting up the steps. He can't just go on an elevator and press the button because he can't get up the steps. That's not permitted. So he would have to stay downstairs all Shabbos or get a goy to do it for him.
A person who's sick, fully not in danger, he's considered a chol kol folk, or really ill. The question is, can he do an Issa D'Orabanan? There are the Chai Yodon. There are opinions which permit that, but the Mishnah Berurah doesn't pass him that way. The Mishnah Berurah passes he's not. He can ask a non-Jew to do it, but for Mishnah Berurah says that a chol kol folk is not allowed to do an Issa D'Orabanan. So that's why it's necessary for these devices.
Right. So if you had to go get a goy every time, it would be very inconvenient. So that's the advantage of these devices. Okay, so we will have to stop right here. I want to thank everybody for joining. Thank you, Rabbi Frankel. Thank you, Rabbi Chapman and Mr. Rosenstein for helping us. So we had a heated discussion. We shed light on the issue, right? And we hope that you will join us next time. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, you can call us 410-484-4110, or you can email us at info@star-k.org. You can look for the replay if you're interested on our website, star-k.org. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks very much for joining us. Take care, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.